Welcome, welcome. Seeing some folks joining in. Welcome to Leveling Up Your CRM. Really excited to be hosting this session today. To introduce myself, my name is Michaela. I'm joined here with Hallie. What's up, Hallie?
Hey, Michaela, excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to be hosting this session. We're going to get started here just 2 minutes past the hour. And to dive in, would love to say hello to folks as they're joining. So feel free to where are you tuning in from today? I'm based in Arizona from an extra room, working from home right now. Would love to know where you're tuning in from today. And quick housekeeping on that. You can message all panelists. That's myself and Hallie. And you can also say hello to everybody. Awesome. So seeing folks from Portugal, Honduras, Boston, Canada, all over the world. Welcome. Welcome, Peggy from San Francisco, Sarah in Austin. Really excited to be digging in here today and diving into taking your CRM to the next level. So tons and tons to cover, and let's jump into this. So to introduce myself again for those that have just joined, my name's Michaela, and I'm co-hosting today with my colleague Hallie.
Hey, Michaela, really excited to be here. Excited to see all those who are joining.
Amazing. So we're both a part of our education team here at Airtable. We've worked with thousands of customers to help them get the most value out of Airtable. And today we are bringing you the top unlocks to help you level up your CRM. So quick housekeeping, we have the Q&A available for specific questions that you have during the session, and then the chat is available for just banter, just letting us know if something doesn't make sense. We're also joined here today with RJ. RJ's going to be on our chat. So welcome, RJ. He was there for a moment. Hey, he's waving now. So he'll also be on our chat to answer questions that you have and make sure that those tuning in get the absolute most value out of this session. Awesome. So number one question we get from folks joining us is around, will you get the recording of this session and will you get the base that we built today? And the answer to both of those is yes. So don't worry if you miss anything, we go a little bit too fast. You can always watch this recording back after the session. So not to worry there. And let's dig into our session today and really dive into this. So you've mastered the basics in Airtable, and you may be wondering, how can you take your skills to the next level? So you're in the right place if you have existing knowledge of Airtable, including fields, views, and linked records, or you joined us for our Start from Scratch CRM training. If you haven't had a chance to check out that training, no worries. You can check out the recording or sign up for future training at airtable.com/webinars.
Awesome. And yeah, today's training is really great for anyone who's looking to add in some automations or add visualizations or just start capturing insights inside of your CRM. So we're going to be diving into 3 unlocks to help you take your CRM to the next level. First, we're going to look into ways to automate your sales process, help you scale faster by eliminating redundancies in all the data that you have to keep track of. Mm-hmm. Second, we'll learn how to track interactions in multiple and more complex ways using linked records. And then thirdly, we'll dive into how to visualize insights across your pipeline using Airtable blocks.
Awesome. And so we're going to be digging into each and every one of these. Please save your questions or please ask questions throughout, honestly. If anything isn't clear, we want to answer those questions. If you have them, we're also going to be saving time at the end of the session for Q&A to dig in. If you've joined us for our first training, Creating a CRM from Scratch, welcome back. We're really excited to have you. We're picking up right where we left off. So worth noting, you could apply what we build out today to any existing CRM that you're working with, or you could use a template. Hallie's actually going to go ahead and drop the template into the chat. So you'll be able to open that up if you would like to build along with us today or build after the fact. Awesome. So worth noting that with 170,000 organizations using Airtable, no use case is alike. The CRM that we're building out today will very likely look a bit different than the one that you have in mind, but the unlocks that we're diving into can absolutely apply and can universally apply across all types of CRMs. So when you walk away today, we're just hoping that you have a few more skills in your tool belt in terms of feeling experienced and feeling empowered to build in that next level automation, visualization, and really just take your CRM to the next level. So I'd love to ask those tuning in, where is your confidence at right now in Airtable? It doesn't matter where your score is to start. We want to just get a quick pulse check on those tuning in, and so that we can make sure that by the end we're up leveling that confidence. So seeing a mixture of pretty confident to somewhat confident. I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen here. We're going to dive into the base that we built out. Thank you again for those responding, and let's go ahead and dig into this. So let me go ahead and share, and you should see my screen here in just a moment. Awesome. So thanks again for submitting, and let's dive in. So this base is very, very similar to the base we built out in our CRM build from scratch session. Business has been great. Just as a reminder on what the use case has been. So we're working with yoga studios to put their online classes online, or they put their actual classes online. And so since we first created this base, we've expanded it quite a bit. We have 2 tables within this base. The deals table, so we have 4 different companies that we're working with, but there are a few more studios within each one of those, a few more accounts within each one of those different deals. So additionally, we have a number of contacts that were connected to those different deals. And the really core concept I just wanted to highlight here is around the linked record, that we're connecting deals to contacts. These are the distinct contacts in each and every one of those studios. And yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and these linked records that Michaela is showing us now, and that's something we did cover in the previous training, but just to refresh, linked records are really the core of your Airtable base. So they help you create these relationships between the different tables that you're tracking, essentially creating the right relationships between your information. And this really helps you create a solid structure and foundation for your CRM. And for today, it's going to be the core item that's going to unlock all of the automations that we're going to start adding on top of this. So because we can start creating those complex relationships, we can then start using and leveraging those relationships to pull insights out of those relationships. So Michaela's going to walk us through a few ways we can do that.
Totally. And let's actually dig in here. We have our training dashboard. So checking in, if you've joined us again, we're all about those checklists, being super clear on where we're going here. So we're in this first section really around eliminating redundancies to scale faster. And we're going to build this out a little bit further and expand this CRM to fit the new needs of our team. That specifically is related to the fact that we now have multiple studios, which one studio has a distinct deal. So we have multiple studios for a single a yoga organization. So at that, we'd like to represent and have that high level account here. So another and maybe an easier way here to look at this is looking at this in an unfiltered view. So we see we have 4 studios at this home stretch. It's one of the accounts. Namaste the course, No Place Like Home, and What's Up Dog. So there's 4 distinct accounts that we'd like to represent here and represent each and every deal. So that's a distinct type of information. So we're going to go ahead and create a new table, and we're going to call this accounts. I'm going to go ahead and remove a couple of these fields so that we start from with a clean slate. Let's bring this up to the front here. And let's just re-add these 4 accounts. We have home stretch, no place like home, namaste the course, and what was that? What's up, dog? That's a great. What's up, dog? Love it. And so these 4 high-level accounts that we're working with, we now like to take these and connect these to two of the deals that we're working. And so in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and create a linked record here. We're going to call this account. Awesome. And link to another record and link to accounts, and we'll save this. So what we'll start to see when we select this dropdown is that same list, that list we just added here. And so I'm going to go ahead and connect this to home stretch, connect those there. I can also type and search within the cell and then drag that down. And then what's up, dog? What dog? Let me update that. Great. So now what we're seeing when we move over to our accounts table is we're seeing all of the deals associated with that account. And this becomes, starts to become a more complex relationship here.
Yeah, and Michaela, I want to highlight a couple of questions that we're seeing, which are related to linked records, and
Cool.
Want to just like quickly answer these, but also flag we're going to dive really deep into linked records over the next 10 minutes or so. So some of these you'll get to see in action. But one question that's coming in is, can you link more than one item from another table into the main one? Yep. I think you're seeing here who just done that. Yeah. So hopefully that answers the question. Linked records can have just a single record, they can have multiple records, and we're going to dive even deeper into the different structures you might set up, where you might have one link, you might have many links. So there are different ways that you might think about structuring that. And then another question around linked records, is there a way to have multiple sections of linked records? So I'm interpreting this, hopefully this is correct, as having we have this single field here that has linked records. We could have another field in the same table that links to a different table. And we will show some examples of that as we move through the next 10 minutes or so. So let us know if that answers your question. Yeah, and then just to highlight the value that we're adding here. So now that we have these relationships created between our accounts and our deals, we can start pulling in account level insights. So we can start doing things like summarizing some of the information from our deals and viewing that at the account level. And Michaela, I know you have some really awesome ideas for how we can start to visualize that.
Perfect. Yeah. So really thinking through, we now can group these by our accounts. And I'm actually going to this group by account. And we can then also, we now pulled in all 4 of these different deals to this single account. What are the things that we can do with this? One of those would be to get the total number of deals for a distinct account. And in order to do that, we're going to add our first computed field, which allows us to actually automate and we don't have to manually enter that information. So let's call this number of deals. And I'm going to search count here. And what this field does is it just counts the number of linked records within a field. And so I only have one linked record field here. Let's save this and see what happens. So we have 4 studios we're working with in this account. So it's a single, that's 4 deals. There's just one studio here, so there's just one deal here. So it's taking and just taking that number and automatically giving us that output.
Awesome. Yeah. And like Michaela said, this is a special type of field in Airtable called a computed field. And computed fields, they allow you to, instead of having to manually update that field, you just set the configuration the way you want it to, and then it'll just update for you automatically moving forward. So there's a
Totally.
few more computed fields that adding linked records allows us to unlock.
Totally. So another example here, let's just go take a look at our contacts. We have, I'm just going to have an unfiltered view here. So we have a number of different contacts. And so let's go ahead and pull these into our deals table here, or our accounts table. So I'm going to go ahead and have this be account contacts, and using what we call a lookup, because we have this deals linked record, we can now surface this information into our accounts. So selecting contacts, we'll see what happens here. So we get a high level of all of the accounts, or all of the contacts for each and every one of these. I'm actually gonna make this a little bit taller so it's easier to see. Let's hop over to our deals table, see what this looks like. You have all of these different contacts spread across all of those different studios, and now it's all consolidated into that one list. So when I open this up, you have a centralized record where you have all of those deals and all those contacts all in one place. You can also see which studio they're associated with. So it really starts to pull that information in and become hyper relevant at a glance.
Yeah, and Michaela, you're highlighting something that's really important and powerful about using this type of field. This allows you to, maybe you do want to see your contacts at both the deal level and the account level.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having to type those in both places, or even create those linked records in both places, you can just manage it in one table and then look it up somewhere else. So you can always view it from a different place, but this helps you focus on, okay, where should this information really live? What's the most important place for it to be entered and tagged? And then you can always pull it into other places. It's always going to stay in sync across those different tables.
Another really high value way to consolidate that information is to think through deal value or account value. So each one of these deals has a different value, and so I'd love to see at an account level how much these are in total. So I can do that using a new field here called account value, using what we call a roll up. And so go ahead and use a roll up. And so it's very similar to a lookup. We're pulling in that information from our deals, but you can perform calculations on that information. So let's see what I mean by that. So we're looking at our deals here. Let's look at deal value. And then in this case, let's use a sum function. We'll save this. And great. So now we have this output. I also like to customize this so that it's a currency format. Maybe we'll make it precision at that level. And there we go. So we have that high level account value. You can also then apply a sort here if you'd like to see those in order. So there are tons of different ways to customize this and make it customized to you and your team's needs.
Yeah, and Michaela, one question we're getting, which is around lookups and rollups, the area you're talking about, is just a clarification on that question about having linked data in two places.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question was actually not, can you link to two different records, but can you see more than one field from that linked table? So just like Michaela set up here with the deals and they're pulling in those account contacts, the example that Patricia is asking about is if we're at the deals table, we see the name of the contact. Could we also see the email here?
Yeah.
And so the answer is yes, and we can use a lookup field, just like the one Michaela just set up. But Michaela,
Totally.
you can show us how that would work.
Yeah, so email. So we know we have this Logan, Skylar there, and I'm just gonna adjust that in a moment. So if we look at our contacts table, this is the information we have here. Of course, this could include phone number. It could include just a number of different details associated with each one of those individual contacts. let's pull in the email from our contacts here using a lookup. And so I'm looking at the contacts here, and then I want the email field. So let's see what happens. Great. And obviously these are example emails, of course, but then that could be a really nice list of all the emails for a specific studio, and then you are able to access that. Hopefully that answers the question. Happy to.
Yeah, let us know, Patricia, if that does answer the question.
But great question. Really appreciate that. I think it does take a little bit of time to figure out how these things are working together, but I really appreciate and happy to clarify. It looks like you said it did, so amazing.
Yeah, and then I think, Michaela, this just underlines what I was just speaking about, which is you want to decide where should your information live. What's the right table to be tracking it at? For example, in this deals table, we have an owner field here, and you can see that it's inconsistent across our accounts. So you can look at that first account, you can see that Michaela and I are splitting this work. And that may be something we want to clarify at the account level. So it's really about deciding where you want to host this information. And then Michaela, I think maybe you could show us how we might make that change in our CRM as our business is growing here.
Totally. So for example, Homestretch, Hallie, you're a rock star. You've got 3 of these studios, but I have this 4th one. I think it would make more sense for you to just take this whole account. So let's go over to our accounts, the account level, and start to add a account owner here. And we're going to call this a collaborator. So Homestretch, Hallie, you're going to be handling that account in full. You're also handling Namaste the course. So I'm going to go ahead and make you the account owner for both of those. And then I'll be handling the other 2 accounts. I already have all of the studios here. So I'm going to go ahead and assign myself as the account owner there. And now that we've added this information at the account level and within our accounts table, I can bring in and pull this information over to our deal. So deal table. So I'm going to add a new field here and call this account owner. And it's going to be a lookup. And we're going to be looking up our accounts, and we're going to be looking up the account owner. So this is pulling in automatically because we have this linked record here. So it's looking at what's up dog, and it's saying, all right, Michaela is that owner. And obviously you can get very granular here, but now this reduces that duplication. So you'll see here now Hallie is owning that Studio 4. I'm fully owning both of these accounts. So it's just thinking through that information, really architecting how you'd like that to be represented. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this previous owner field. We've got our new lookup owner field, and it's coming together.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, as we mentioned a couple of times, this allows us to have that clear ownership, allows us really the core thing here is to avoid that redundant data entry. So you can decide where should your information live, and then you have the tools to pull that throughout your base so you can see it in other relevant places. Yeah, and I think that brings us to our next unlock, Michaela.
Yeah, totally. Opening up our checklist here. Just to recap, we talked through count, we talked through lookup, and count again, getting that total number of deals, lookup, pulling in information across those different tables. We actually created a couple of those. Roll up is performing calculations on that information, and then we will be digging in a little bit on formulas. But the high level and the big takeaway from this section is just to introduce some of the tools that you can use to start to connect your information together in ways that match you and your team's workflow. So this next section is around tracking interactions and diving into just that. Awesome. So let's dig in. We've talked through and we've added an accounts table here. But interactions, again, and as a reminder, tables are meant to be a distinct type of information. And so we have a list of accounts, we have a list of distinct deals here, and a list of contacts, as you mentioned. Interactions are unique. They're their own type of information, actually a combination of contacts and potentially the deal that we're talking about. And so that said, this actually would warrant a new table, an interactions table. We're gonna go ahead and build this out here. Awesome. Let's delete these examples and start to add and build this out. So as I mentioned, this is a combination of the contacts that we spoke with, who did we speak with, and then also the specific deal. So we're gonna go ahead and pull information into this table. And in comparison, right, the accounts, we have one account and you can have many different connections, while with an interactions table, this may actually be a combination of a number of different information intersecting at once. So we're going to dive into that. I'd love to dig into this example. So for example, like last week, last week we spoke with some folks at, we had a discovery call with Skylar from Homestretch. So I'm just adding in a list of some of our different interactions. We also did a demo with Logan and Leslie, also from Homestretch. And then we spoke with Sam Eaps, No Place Like Home, and we talked about pricing. Great. So the first thing really important with interactions is what kind of interaction was it? So I'm going to go ahead. This will be pretty familiar if you've joined us for our one-on-one session, but I'm going to go ahead and add a single select here. Some examples are discovery, demo, pricing, discussion. Great. And so I'm going to go ahead and start to tag these, pull this together, and starting to log what these interactions are. It's also important to have the date and time. So it's going to be a date field. And I also think it's pretty important in this case to include the time, because definitely want to stay on top of when that meeting was. So these were all last week. Let's add these for different dates. You can also adjust the time as well and customize this. Great. So starting to dig into the details there. But now let's start to pull in what this is actually associated with. And so if we hop over to our deals table here, we know that Skylar and Logan were part of our Studio One. And so I'd like to log that in our interactions table from Homestretch. So deal, we're going to link to this other record. And Studio One. Great. And then next, let's also connect to our contact, right? Who is the distinct contact that we spoke with at that studio? And so this is going to be a second link record here, linking to our contacts. And when we select in this dropdown, I'm just going to search Skylar. Great. So starting to populate this out, I know that, let's look where Logan and Leslie are, just to confirm. Well, let's see, Logan and Leslie are across they're actually across two different deals. So let's go ahead and add that. So Studio 1, Studio 4, and then Logan and Leslie. So you can add multiple contacts for a distinct interaction. Maybe we spoke with, they wanted a demo, and this is on that account level. So you could have demoed for multiple deals. Again, lots of different ways to represent this kind of information. And then Sam Eaps, it looks like it's No Place Like Home, Main Street. So this is starting to come together here, and we're starting to log these different distinct interactions.
Yeah, and Michaela, this actually gets at something that we had a few questions around earlier, which is like, how do you decide, can you link to one record? Can you link to multiple records?
Mm-hmm.
Should you have more than one field here that's linking to different tables? So this interactions table, the reason it exists is because between our contacts and our deals, we have many different interactions going on. So we're
Totally.
dealing with a more complex data structure here. So Michaela's created what we call a junction table. We call it a junction table because it sits in the middle of two other tables. So every
Yep.
interaction represents a combination of a deal and a contact. So we're using these records to represent that interaction in between them.
Totally. Actually allows us to even maybe let's like look up the status of the uh, distinct deal, for example.
Yep, and we could also look up information from the contact as well, because both are relevant for what we're doing here. And
Totally.
then someone, Patricia, is asking a question, which is exactly what we were going to point to next, which is around the first field in this table. So especially for a table like this, where we're having this complex relationship with other tables,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be cognizant of what you're using for the first field in your table. And this is what we call a primary field in Airtable. So the primary field is really important because it's actually the name or the identifier of the record. So you can think of this as one of the main differences between using a database like Airtable and using a spreadsheet, for example. It really matters what that name is because you're actually naming the record as an individual item. It has all this information attached to it. We're going to be visualizing it in different ways throughout our base. So you want to make sure that you get the name to be something that you can easily search for, that you can easily identify when you're seeing it in the list of all the other names of records. So one way I love to do this is to use a formula to set up the primary field so we know it's always going to be unique and automatic.
Totally. And so let's actually do just that. I'm gonna go ahead and add a formula here. And in this case, I might be interested in using what we call a concatenate formula. And essentially, usually can select here, and if you're new to formulas in Airtable, you can see a quick tip on how to actually set this up. So and what the formula does. But in this case, it joins together different strings of text. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. So maybe in this case, instead of just having a non-consistent list of interactions, which I had before, I want to just have the type of interaction. So it's looking at my type table and then adding also the deal that was relevant here. And we're going to convert this, and we'll see here now. All right, it was a discovery with Homestretch Studio 1, or a pricing discussion with No Place Like Home Main Street. So that becomes standardized.
Yeah, and it's really important just to note, because we're getting another question about this as well. Like, why wouldn't we just name each of these discovery, demo, pricing, discussion? And the reason is, as our list of interaction grows, we're going to have multiple discovery interactions and multiple demos.
Yep.
So we wouldn't be able to tell in that list. So Michaela, if you click over to deals, for example.
Yep.
And take a look at what these records look like from this side. If you had a bunch of different records here that said like demo, discovery call, you wouldn't be able to see as much information about them. So the formula allows you to create something that's really unique and represents more about that record so that you can tell which one you're looking at.
All right, and it gives you, at a glance right now, I can open up this deal and I say, hey, okay, I had a discovery call with on 414, and you know exactly who it was with, you know exactly the context there, and it gives you that ability to get really granular, but also customized to your team's needs. So
yeah, and actually that's a great point. That said, it's totally up to you and your team and your preference how you would build this. Definitely have seen people who have non-unique primary fields. So it's not out of the question. You can do whatever you want. We're just recommending kind of a best practice. And then one other question related to primary fields is uh, around, can you easily change this field out? Could you make a different field? So there are some restrictions around how you can use this field just for the reasons we've been talking about. So there's a shorter list of field types that you can use. You can't drag this field, you'll notice. So if you wanted to replace this field, you'd have to actually make changes to that field itself rather than just dragging to rearrange. And that's just so that you kind of have some safeguards around once you've got your primary field set up, and especially as other people are also using your base, your primary field doesn't get out of whack too easily.
Awesome. And one more unlock here. I do see some questions coming in around blocks and checking in on our time here. We are a little bit less than 10 minutes left. We have tackled linked records. We talked through junction tables and really tracking those interactions. So we are let's dive into blocks here in just a moment. Just want to show one more thing with interactions. Your team is working quickly. You're logging tons of different pieces of information here. And one way to do this really easily and to just build this into your system is to use a form. So let's see, it's like an interaction log. And that's essentially it, right? It's looking at the different fields within your table. And so let me go ahead and open this form and just show you what I mean by how quickly this can be done now. So I had a demo. It was with What's Up Dog Central. It was on the 13th, and I spoke with Robbie, right? Let's go ahead and submit that. And when I hop back over to the interactions table, that's now logged. So you can start to build this into your workflow, and it actually gives you all that key information right there. Amazing. So let's jump over. No, we're running close on time here, but I really do want to talk about our third and final unlock, and that is visualizing your pipeline insights.
Yeah, and Michaela, we've gotten some questions about Airtable blocks throughout the training, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into now. So Airtable blocks are sort of like, we think of them as like little apps you can plug in on top of your base. So once you've got all your information set up the way you want it, just like we've been doing so far, you can then start using that as a base to create visualizations, to summarize information. And there's so many different things you can do with blocks. We're actually launching new blocks all the time. So we wouldn't be able to cover them all here, but we'll dive into a few that we see used in CRMs all the time.
Awesome. So for a little bit of context here, we actually have our 101 and 201 training dashboards, which we've been working with. And so dashboards organize groups of blocks. And in the case of today's session, let's just do, we'll call this a pipeline insights. And that's just going to be the dashboard we use to create this high level of our different insights here. So looking at our CRM, one major block that could unlock a lot of value is to get a high level summary of the number of deals that we've closed. And so I'm going to be looking at our deals table, and I'm going to go ahead and install what we call the summary block. And this is a great, this is a pretty quick block to configure. And I'm going to configure this to look at our deals table. And then to start, let's just look at our all pipeline view. So it's giving us a big number 10. There's 10 records. There's 10 deals in our full pipeline. But in this case, I want to just see the closed one deal. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new grid view and call this close one. And then add a filter where the stage is closed one. And so it just filters that down to 2 deals. If I go ahead and adjust the configuration here, I now see this closed one view. And let's maybe make this a nice green. We can add an emoji here.
And Michaela, while you're filling out that label, I just want to call attention to what you just walked through, which is really important to understand about blocks. So you'll see this repeatedly as you start diving into other blocks. Blocks are typically scoped to a view. So in order to control what information is showing up in that summary block or in any block you're working in, you'll want to create a view that has the right data set that you want to visualize, and then just link your block to that view.
Totally. So if I go ahead and move this view, this deal forward into close one, you'll now see that updates in real time. We have 3 closed deals, which is pretty exciting here. Moving forward and jumping to our next visualization, we could go ahead and tackle chart block. And to get
chart block is one of those things that I know anyone using a CRM will definitely be familiar with, visualizing in charts. And so there are so many different things you can do with this. One way that we see customers use charts all the time is by seeing how much value is in each deal stage. So Michaela, maybe you can show us how we can do that.
Right, so I've navigated to chart and just select install, and it actually basically did that exact thing. I didn't really have to do too much. It's looking at our deals table, it's looking at our full pipeline view, and you can see each and every stage that we have here. I can also go ahead and customize the colors a bit. Hallie, did you have any other ideas on expanding this one? Or I think that this looks nice high level in terms of just the count of how many deals we have.
Yeah, actually, one of my favorite ways to do this is what you're showing us right now is just how many deals do we have in each stage.
Right.
But we could actually summarize how much account value or how much deal value we have in each stage as well. So instead of using account, as Michaela is showing us, we can use one of the fields in our table to represent.
Great call. So now it's taking in look. What I just did there is I took the y-axis and I looked at our deal value field, and it's giving us a sum of that exact thing. I also probably group this by getting a little fancy here. Account owner. It may not be as relevant, but yeah, there's lots of ways to adjust that. Awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, you just pointed to another chart that I definitely recommend setting up, which is seeing how much deal value each lead is owning. So maybe not so much the stages, but just tracking, instead of seeing deal value by stage, seeing deal value by account owner.
Great. So maybe we can, let's go ahead and just install another chart here. And in this case, right, we want the x-axis to be looking at the account owner. And there is Hallie and myself got all these deals in the pipeline. And instead of having it look at the amount, so we're neck and neck here. We're both have about 18K deal value each. And then you could then group by account potentially, right? And then maybe a stack would be nice. So you can show, all right, there's 10K in Hallie's account. And you can actually open this up and start to look at the details for each of these, all of the contacts. Because we've started to architect the space in this way, it gives us that transparency.
Yeah, I love being able to click in and see which records are being visualized. And Patricia's asking us a follow-up question about this, asking whether we could show 2 different types of calculations in the same chart. Like, so for example, the sum and the mean. Unfortunately, you can't do that. What I would typically recommend for this is, or I do this all the time, is set up your dashboard, which Michaela can show us how to do that. But set up your dashboard so you have charts that are representing the same type of data, either like stacked on top of each other or stacked next to each other, so you can easily visually see the difference between them.
Cool, so let's do that. I'm just renaming some of our charts here. But now I've gone ahead and expanded this dashboard, and then you can adjust this as big as small as you'd like, suiting this to how you'd like to view it. But again, if let's say that these 2 charts were very relevant to each other, which they are related, you could have them side by side, for example. So lots of ways to customize the look of this. I do realize we are very close to time, but I am sure there are Tons of great questions. Any other, happy to jump to some final words before going to our Q&A.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's all we had on blocks right now.
Great. So,
but yeah, definitely drop other questions you guys have in the Q&A. So we'll get to those next.
Awesome. So just gonna jump back and quickly pose the question: where is your confidence at now that we've dove into this? Go ahead and launch our second poll for today. Feel free to let us know. Hopefully that score is a little bit higher. Hopefully what we dove in helped you see the potential of where your CRM could go. Worth noting that we are here to help and to keep this conversation going, so you can get support from our team in your workspace, in your base, or at support@airtable.com. And then lastly, we have tons of on-demand resources available. We have some amazing support articles that detail how to set up some of these different things that we've shown you today in our help center. We have YouTube videos available. And then lastly, tons of trainings like this. So thank you again to those that have joined. Hopefully this was your second session from our CRM 101 session, and would love to just answer some questions. Really appreciate the time, but I do realize that we are a little bit over. So
yeah, we have a few questions we can definitely run through.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so if you jump back to the base, one small one we can knock out is someone was wondering about if you check out the deals table, I think. Yeah. In your third bucket there, that namaste the course,
yep,
there's a little 1 on the left-hand side of this record.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just wondering what that is.
Great. So that's actually a comment, and it just is a count of the number of comments. So let's say that now Hallie is the owner of this, so I can actually mention Hallie. Hey, where is this deal at? And obviously, I was working with Aaron a little bit before, and so I can go ahead and message that. And now you'll see that number is 2. So it's just giving you a high level on the number of comments within a record.
Awesome. Another question is really thinking more about structure. So Ryan is asking if you could automatically link new records based on information on that record. So for example, say I should be linked to all the small companies that we pick up in terms of accounts. So what I would recommend for doing this, Ryan, is it's again thinking about where you want information to live. So if we want the main determining factor for the account owner to be the company size, then we want to track that in a table that is related to company size. So for example, in our base right now, the determining factor for who owns an account is, for who owns a deal is which account it's part of. So we can see that we set at the account level and the deals are inheriting that account owner. We could do the same thing by adding a level above accounts where we have company size. And then every time we tag company size to accounts, that account owner would be inherited. So it's all about just thinking about where you want that information to be set and then where you want it to fall down to.
Hope that makes sense. And again, if there's any, very specific questions to your use case that you would love to talk through or clarify, you can always reach out to support@airtable.com, and our team is tons of experts to help you advise on maybe some best practices in terms of getting yourself set up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. I did see a couple of questions. I just want to acknowledge this topic around tracking status and stage changes over time, which is a pretty meaty, complex topic in terms of how you set it up. It definitely has a lot to do with your particular base structure and how you might want to log that, and how frequently you're interested in seeing that information. There may be some automations you could bring into the picture. So that's something that it's great to hear people are interested in. That's something we might cover in a future training. And in the meantime, definitely would recommend reaching out to our awesome support team who are around all the time to help you one-on-one answer questions like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's all the questions we have for today.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Holly. Thank you, RJ. And thank you to those that have taken the time to join us for the session today. Tons and tons of great questions. This was a ton of fun to build out and talk through. And couldn't be more excited to have dove in today. So hope to see you in a future training. And please let us know if there is something that is a gap for you and you'd love to know more about. We'd love to hear your ideas for future trainings like this. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great rest of your day wherever you're tuning in from. That's all from us. So signing off here and hope to see you again soon.